This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, the Game Boy Geek here. Hey, this coming Sunday is December 4th, but it's also National Dice Day. So with that coming up, I thought it'd be cool to do my top 10 dice games and give you just a little bit of time to maybe look into these and possibly order them and play them that day coming this Sunday. So here we go, without further ado, here's my top 10 dice games to play on National Dice Day. Now before I start with number 10, let me just give a really quick honorable mentions to 3 games that are in the similar genre of these little quick dice games. One of them is Quicks, one of them is Quinto, and one of them is Rolling America. All of them are about 10 bucks. You can find these at most any stores these days. I even saw some of these in a grocery store the other day. And all 3 of these are just quick, easy to teach dice games that are a lot of fun. They're portable, and I really like these a lot. They just didn't have enough oomph to get on the top 10, but I actually play these probably even more than some of the other ones because they're so quick and accessible. But I wanted to give these 3, they're due, even though they didn't make the list. I wanted you to be aware of them in case you're not. I've reviewed all 3 of these, so check out my reviews for that. But definitely I wanted to give them some spotlight, even though they're not on the list.
Number 10.
So for number 10, it is a dice game that's also a social deduction game. It's very quick, it plays a lot of players, and it's called Bang the Dice Game. This is a fun game that basically streamlines the card game called Bang, where one player is going to be sort of the sheriff, someone's going to be the deputy trying to save the sheriff, there's going to be some outlaws that are on their own team trying to kill the sheriff, and there's going to be a renegade or a team of renegades just trying to be the last person standing. You have 3 different teams with 3 different objectives. Nobody really knows who is who at first, but over the course of the game, you're trying to figure out who is who just by what they're doing. You're rolling dice to, aim and fire at people, or to drink beer and get health back, so sometimes you'll be getting arrows. So there's a press your luck element, because once all the arrows are out, everybody takes damage for however many arrows they have. You can try to blow everybody away at once. It's just fun to just roll the dice, try to figure out who is who, and try to be on the winning team. It's just a very fun social deduction game, and that's why I made my list, Bang the Dice Game.
Number 9.
Now the next one is a new game. It's just recently come out. It's sort of in the same genre as the 3 games that I mentioned in my sort of honorable mention, because it is a quick little dice game. It's called Dice Stars. It recently came out. It's fun. What I say is it's easy to teach as Yahtzee, but has so much more depth, so many good, interesting decisions to make in the game. In this game, you're rolling dice, and you're taking either all of one color or all of one number, and depending on whether you take it one way or the other, basically you're going to be scoring these on a grid, on a score pad, in one way or another, either horizontally if you're going with the numbers, or vertically if you're getting the colors. You're trying to make these grids line up so you have as many points on a certain line that you want, and the big trick is getting these stars, because if you can get stars, you can double your points. But if you go for a stars and you don't finish it, you'll get 0, and that's the trick. There's a press your luck element, people rushing to the end when they see you're stuck waiting for stars, but there's also ways to really line up the grid in such a way that lots of thought for such an easy game, and that's why it's on this list.
Number 8.
The next one is Garden Dice. I feel like this is one of the most underrated dice games out there. It is sort of a family-style Euro game. It can be very mean. You're basically planting different plants like eggplants and all different vegetables, and then you're watering them. And the thing is, they chain together in certain ways. You might water an eggplant, but it might go downhill and water other people's. So you're trying to set yourself up so that when other people take actions, you're benefiting from those. Interesting grid, interesting dice that you get to use in different ways, whether you're placing things or taking different vegetables. Lots of interesting things to think about in this game, but like I said, it can be very mean because there's ways that you can eat other people's seeds or vegetables, but you can also have there's a family variant where you take those out. When I play with my wife, we don't play with that variant, so it can be very mean, or it can be just a family level game. And there's definitely a lot to think about for how light this is. It's a sort of a lighter Euro dice game, but one I enjoy quite a bit. Great production, fun game. It's quick, it's an hour or less, probably usually around 45 minutes, and you're trying to collect sets, but again, seeing what other people are doing and piggybacking off theirs, and dice drafting in that way. So it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend Garden Dice.
Number 7.
My number 7 is an old classic that actually just got reprinted. This is called Liar's Dice, and this is sort of an old party game where you're rolling your dice behind, secretly so nobody can see, and you're betting how many you see. Like you might say, hey, there's 5 6s out there. The next player has to either raise that bet to something different or to challenge you. And if you get challenged and you lose a certain amount of dice depending on the difference between what was really there and what people challenged you for. It's a fun bluffing game. It's sort of like an entry to bluffing. People love rolling the dice, love calling people on their bluffs. It's a simple party game, but man, this is just one of those staples that I've been playing since I was a kid. A lot. We played this while we went camping all summer long, but it's still fun. I recently pulled it out and we played it at a family outing, and man, I was like, wow, this game still holds up really well, and that's Liar's Dice.
Number 6.
My number 6 is actually a family game that is a roll and move. But before you shut this off, it is very unique because in this game, it's called a dice crafting game where you're actually building your dice up. You're actually flipping pieces off of your dice and putting on their special abilities. And then you're rolling your dice, trying to figure out which abilities am I going for. Some of them, they all score totally different. Sometimes you'll be trying to get a lot of stock. Sometimes you're going to be trying to get stars. Sometimes you're stealing things from other people. Sometimes you've got this little train that's going around that has a different scoring method each time. And every game is different because not every way of scoring is in each game. Sometimes there's multiple ways to score a certain thing. Every game is different. You're crafting your dice. You're deciding which dice to roll. You're deciding which of your 3 people to move. So even though it is a roll and move, there's a lot of strategy in here. And there's a lot of fun just creating your dice and homing in on your strategy. They're all very balanced, but you can go off in different ways. Every game feels completely different. Excellent game, and that is Rattlebones.
Number 5.
My number 5 is a dice sort of crafting game as well that has a ton of expansions. I've been recently reviewing a lot of these, and this is another one that's very underrated and I don't hear it talked about a lot, and that's King's Forge. This comes from GameSalute. It's 2 to 4 players, and in this game, you're going through different phases of gathering, and you're using special abilities on cards to either transform dice. Sometimes you have to get rid of dice for the whole game if they're very powerful abilities. So you're changing dice. You're getting abilities to be able to manipulate dice by either re-rolling or doing different things with them or changing them. Or hurting other people. And then you're trying to craft things where you're rolling the dice that you have that turn and you're trying to manipulate them using the special abilities you got to craft certain items, but other people can steal those from you this turn. It's a very interesting game. Every game's very different. There's tons of different things to craft each game. The gather cards are different each game. Lots of replayability, lots of thinking. I like it best with there's an expansion called Queen's Jubilee, which makes it a little bit easier, makes it a little bit less dependent on the luck of the one roll you get each turn. But overall, the game is great. It's one that more people should talk about, and that's King's Forge.
Number 4.
All right, my number 4 is a game that I like to say it's like Yahtzee on steroids. This game, it came out recently over the last few years. It was a re-implementation of an older game to court the king. This is called The Favor of the Pharaoh from Bezier Games. 2 to 4 players. You're rolling dice, and then you're possibly manipulating them with some special abilities, and then you're basically using those dice to get new characters that give you new special abilities, and you're working your way up to the point where you have about 7 or 8 dice. You're trying to get 7 or 8 of a kind to get the queen, get the Pharaoh's favor, and then everyone goes around, and there's always a stand-up moment at the end of the game where people are trying to outdo others for this last thing, manipulating dice, using dice that do special things, using characters that use special things. It's simple in nature where it's like Yahtzee, but man, there's a lot more going on here. But it's still simple enough that I've taught this to my family members that don't play a whole lot of games, but yet gamers like myself like it too because it's different. There's so many different characters and ways to play and set up the game. The replayability is almost infinite in this game, and that's a lot of fun, and that's Favor of the Pharaoh.
Number 3.
My number 3 is a cooperative game. It's a real-time game where you're trying to drop off gems like Indiana Jones to get out of the temple. It's called Escape the Curse of the Temple from Queen Games. This is one of those games you're going to be furiously and frantically rolling dice, everybody at the same time, keeping the ones that you need, that you're trying to get, locking things when you're done. You're moving from place to place. You're trying to drop off gems together. You're trying to run to people who are stuck and give them masks so they can re-roll their dice. There's lots of expansions for this game. It's exciting, it's stressful. A lot of people, this game is actually too stressful for them to play, but I find it amazingly fun, very tense. There's a soundtrack that goes on with it. Big gong goes off, everyone has to rush to the center, they lose a dice 2 or 3 times a game. And again, it's very expandable, it's very quick, it's a timed game, it's 10 minutes. It's one of those ones that you'll play once and you'll probably never play it less than 3 times at a sitting, and it's a ton of fun, and that is Escape the Curse of the Temple.
Number 2.
My number 2 is a game that was nominated for Spiel des Jahres many years ago. It recently came out with an expansion that I don't even think has quite made its way to North America yet. This is a classic dice game called Las Vegas. This essentially is like beginner to or entry-level area control. You're rolling your dice, and then you're selecting all of one number and placing them on a casino, and at the end of the round, whoever has the most dice on a specific casino gets the money there. But the most interesting part is if you tie, no one who's tied gets anything. Sometimes someone can tie someone right at the end, and someone's sitting there with 1 die and got a huge money. It's awesome, it's fun. Yes, there's some luck with the dice, but there's definitely a lot of strategy involved too. And always funny things happen. People are laughing at someone getting messed over or tying someone else, and someone just gets something for almost nothing. And the expansion adds so much to it as well. But even the base game is a ton of fun. It's one I've played with gamers and non-gamers alike, and it always goes over well. That's Las Vegas.
Number 1.
And my number 1 is a family level game that is just so fun. Played it actually last night with a family that had never played it before, and I call this Yachtzilla, also known as King of Tokyo from Yellow. This is just a staple. It's one of those it's a modern day classic that everyone should have in their collection, in my opinion. It's like Yahtzee, you're rolling dice up to 3 times, keep it what you want, and it's like the old game of King of the Hill, where you're trying to either be the last person standing or the first to 20 points. You're going around hitting each other with claws, upgrading with cards, healing yourself, and getting different energy things so you can buy cards that do certain things. It's just a lot of fun. It's a family level game that's not hard to teach, but it's really fun. It's streamlined, much more streamlined than I'd say the King of New York sequel that came out. This is also very expandable. There's a couple expansions out there that give each of the monsters special powers, different costumes and things like that. Tons of fun. This is absolutely my favorite dice game because it's just fun. I've never had a game go bad, and again, it's easy to teach, can play with any type of player, gamer or not, and that's King of Tokyo. Well, I hope you enjoyed that list, and for next Sunday, even if you don't have any of these or you don't want to have any of these, that you'll play some dice games next Sunday. And if you like these, you still got some time to go off and get a couple of these to play on National Dice Day on Sunday.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for backing me on Kickstarter and making this season become a reality. I'd like to especially thank those here that have backed me at the credit level. Now, these video reviews are also available by audio on our podcast. It's the intros and the final thoughts on GameBoyGeek.com. Click podcast.